Okay, you're in the pre-show now.
Okay.
You can continue talking.
Okay. But when did Scott Hall drop Razor Ramon and just be Scott Hall? You know, like
contractually, he had to drop Razor Ramon when he went to WCW.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. I gotcha.
But that's part of the whole lore of the thing. When Hall and Nash went to WCW, they did not identify themselves. So people just assumed, hey, look, it's Diesel and Razor Ramon.
Right.
And they never used names for each other.
Yeah.
Until Vince sued, and Bischoff was forced to have them come on camera and say that they do not work for Vince McMahon. But they still didn't clear up the name thing. Because when they first came on WCW TV, what they said was, you know who I am, and you know where I'm from.
All three platforms have accepted the stream.
Groovy.
When you see on the air, you're on the air, okay?
Okay. Okay. Hello and good evening. Good evening. Welcome to the Home of the Future. I'm Jason. I have James here, and in the ether is Richard. He will be with us forthwith. And we really don't have a topic this evening, so it's open-ended. And like that, we're welcome for anybody to call if you want. Calls are welcome. Number is 716-202-8430. You're on the air. All righty. And so, do you have a list this day, Richard?
I do.
Oh, groovy. Heck yes. And so, say something, James, so we know you're alive.
I am alive. I'm here.
I'm alive from ELO.
Yes.
Or when Jerry Garcia.
What's that song about? I'm Alive by
Well,
ELO.
it was from the the Xanadu soundtrack. So it's just about being alive. You know, it's not anything about surviving anything, but it's Jeff Lynne just sounding great.
Is Xanadu a good movie, James?
That's a very controversial question.
Yes.
There's people who say yes and people who say no?
Well, it depends on...
It was one of the biggest flops in movie history. However, it's a cult classic on the back end because people who didn't go to see it in the theater seem to like it.
Interesting.
Well, also, it was just after the Warriors. Yeah, so the guy who played Sonny, or I'm sorry, the guy who played Sonny in Xanadu was also the leader of the gang in the movie The Warriors. You know, like, Warriors, come out and play. And another cult classic. Can you dig it? And that was Cyrus. But that was the beginning and end of his career. But the problem was that was while they were roller skating before the onset of rollerblades. I think it would have looked better. He would have been able to look classier rollerblading. Because the thesis is, what was Olivia Newton-John? She was one of the muses?
Yes.
Yeah, was she Euterpe?
I don't remember the name.
Because I can't remember when she
What do you
was.
mean she's not a human being? She's a muse?
Yeah, that's the whole thing. She comes into the real world, and this guy meets her, and so there's, with Gene Kelly's an old over-the-hill dancer. It was the last movie that Gene Kelly made. So there's flashes forward and back, and she just brings people into where they're great.
And does she wind up turning into a human?
I don't want to give it away, man. You got to see it. I mean, it's not an easy answer, is the thing. That, but also the soundtrack. Some of the best soundtracks you've ever heard. Xanadu is one. Top Gun's another. Purple Rain is another. They stand on their own.
The soundtrack or the movie?
The soundtrack. The soundtrack, as I said, the soundtracks. Those are three soundtracks that stand on their own, irrespective of the movie.
Oh, put Sorcerer in there too.
I've never heard the Sorcerer soundtrack, so I don't know. But what I'm saying is, you wouldn't even have to know anything about the movie, and you could enjoy the soundtrack. You
You
know,
also put a man and the woman in there too.
I don't even
Don't even know that?
I don't know what.
You know the song "A Man and a Woman"? Okay, now you'll know it when I sing it for you. Well, it doesn't have any words. Bum 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 ba 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 bum ba ba bum 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 bum. That's from "A Man and a Woman."
Oh,
It's like the song is more famous than the movie, apparently.
yeah. That I mean, I can't name the soundtracks of any art house films that I've seen. You know that. I'm talking like big mass market things where that's a part of it. Because one of my favorite movies of 1999 was She's All That, and they intentionally didn't make a soundtrack album. But in my pirating days from, I can say this now 26 years later, I downloaded them all and made my own, album of soundtrack. Oh, and I forgot. Mortal Kombat, the Mortal Kombat soundtrack, incredible techno and alternate. The song "Burn" from Sister Machine Gun, you could play that right now on the radio and it would sound current. Yeah, I love that song. I mean, it's just I've never injected any drugs besides my insulin. I'm telling that to the camera. But if I was a junkie, I would play "Burn" when I was shooting up. True story. But you know, then again, if I was shooting up, I wouldn't really give a damn about what was playing on the radio. So yeah, great soundtracks, man. That's all my stuff, man. What, do you know the movie?
That's all my stuff?
That's all my stuff, man. The character says that.
I don't know. What movie is that? Do you know, James?
It's from 1991. It was David Crosby in Backdraft. When it's on fire. That's all my stuff, man. David Crosby does a great homeless guy like your buddy that, really, what does this remind you of? Why the woman buy his stuff in the store? And you said, and he carries around 2 garbage or shopping bags?
The audience might know what you're talking about, so you got to explain it to them.
I don't want to out the guy who looks like a homeless guy, but is he homeless?
Well, we got to explain the backstory.
Well, straightforward, this guy, he's one of those bald dudes who has long hair in the back.
Yeah.
And he carries around these shopping bags.
Should I show the photo?
That's up to you. I don't know if you want to out him.
Oh, yeah.
And
he showed it on his show, so.
Okay. But this guy, if you didn't know, you'd guess he was homeless, and he was in a.
Do you know the story, James?
No.
He was in a convenience store, and he was looking at the Hot Pockets, and this woman, did she say, "I'm going to buy them for you"? She just bought them or paid for them at the counter.
Yeah. So what happens is, before his show, he always stops at the corner mini mart.
Mm-hmm.
And this woman sees him studying in the frozen food section, the Hot Pockets. He decides on one and goes up to the cash register, and the clerk says, "You don't have to pay for it, sir. The woman who was just here paid for it for you." So when he came and he told me the story, I said, "Oh, well, why don't we do a picture of that?" So we shot this photo, and oh, come on. Let's see here. There we go. So somehow he knew she had to have been a Christian woman, because only a Christian would do that in his mind.
And what did I say when you sent me that picture? What did I say? Why do you think he said that? Or why did she do that? Because she thought he was homeless?
I think she did.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have another story from 25 years ago. Uh-huh. There was a woman, this was interesting. She was a teller at a bank, and then we happened to see her out, so, but she would wear this diamond ring on this finger, and she said it wasn't an engagement ring. It's not that at all. I mean, come on, man. Third finger on the left hand, a diamond ring. Your first thought, your second thought, your third thought is, that's an engagement ring. And it was a big, real diamond.
Is that because she didn't want men to bother her?
No, just because it was her weird thing. Because 25...
Well, James, have you ever met women who wore a wedding ring or an engagement ring because they wanted men to stay away?
Very few. I know more men who wear wedding rings because it attracts women.
Absolutely. Yeah, that I
What?
Yeah, there was a guy I knew who would wear his grandfather's wedding ring because it was an ass magnet.
That means that, but isn't he only going to attract women who are, shall we say, not respective of marriage?
Well, that's
Not respectful.
well, that's not the first thing in mind. The thought is more somebody who has an idea of being transgressive and
Transgressive.
the transgression being with a married man, adultering. But the one that says that, if I can get him crazy in the head, crazy in the bed, that's the thought of the guys. Women that would hit on a married guy, they're going to be also great in the sack.
What do you think about that explanation, James?
I'm not going to go too far with that. I'm just going to say that for women, a wedding ring is pre-qualification. And additionally, if I can get him, that means I'm better than her.
There's a comparison thing going on.
Well, it depends on what's your driver. You know, if it's your nads or your melon.
I'm reminded of this TV series that I'm watching called Dope Thief. It's really good.
Dope thief, not dope sick.
No, Dope, Theif.
Okay.
And it's directed by Ridley Scott.
Oh, okay.
So it's the last thing he has done so far.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a scene where one woman, she's the, you know how the police are teamed up in two?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a man and a woman, right? The man dies in a shootout.
Okay.
So the female partner goes and knocks on the door, and the woman who opens the door is surprised to see her. And she says, "No, come on in, come on in." She said, "I'm surprised you had the gall to come here." And she says, "What are you referring to?" And she said, "Are you doing it out of guilt?" And she said, "I still don't know what you're talking about." She goes, "You don't think I know that you were screwing my husband?"
And were they?
You know what the police officer responds?
Oh,
"What's the point of me denying it if we both know it's true?" Now, was that a good response?
Very much so.
well, it's the most logical response, you know, because real world is boring. You know what I mean? And it was like that show, Las Vegas, from 20 years ago that was on NBC with Tom Selleck came in later, and it had James Caan and what's his name? Well, the people in the background were quiet and studious and very good at their jobs, you know, because that's what people that are qualified do. Like there was Mitch who was in a wheelchair and he was in security. You never heard anything from Mitch because he was good at his job. He didn't bring his drama in, you know, that the most drama I ever saw at Duke was
Duke University.
when I was a resident there, and there was a trauma patient that had to go to the OR, and I was holding the inline stabilization. So holding it was more secure than a collar, unless they drilled in the
they're not
halo.
supposed to move their head.
Well, the patient was unconscious.
Oh.
Because that's part of the trauma, you know, and you don't know if they have a broken neck, because if you twist it, it can transect the cord, because that's the softest part of your neck. And transected cord means you're paralyzed from the neck down. Well, if you're a hammer, everything you look at is a nail. Well, I'm holding the inline stabilization. I'm squatted down here, and they were letting the CRNA, Certified Registered Nurse Anesthetist, intubate the guy, which is put the breathing tube in. Well, he starts to puke, and this CRNA only knew one thing: turn the head. So I'm holding on. She tries to turn the head.
So you're fighting each other.
Yeah, and the surgeon, it was Steve. He had a temper, but you never saw it until you did. When he blew up, boom, and he screamed, "He has a neck injury!" And I was like, I can't yell loud enough to make it hurt your ears in here, but that's what he did. He screamed, it echoed in that room. And so then the anesthesiologist got in there and put the tube in, because she got her one bite at the apple, and you know, that's because if you only have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. one of the tenets of anesthesiology residency is, depending on the day, the anesthesiologist in charge will say, use this blade to tube, or use this one, make you do different things so that you're ready for everything. You know, and I think that's reasonable. Like, would you call yourself a black and white photographer or a color photographer?
Whew, that's a hard question.
What do you prefer?
Well, what I do is I look at a photo, and then I say to myself, in this photo, is the color taking away from the meaning of the photo?
Okay.
And then, depending upon how I answer that, is what I do.
Okay. Because what if I said, you have to use the Leica today, you can't use the Nikon? You know, just for today. Or you're going to use this lens that...
I don't associate me with Leica.
I can't name any other big name manufacturers. Minolta?
Sure.
Okay. You're going to use the Minolta today. You're not going to use the what did I say?
The Nikon.
The Nikon.
Yeah.
Or you're going to use this lens that there's nothing wrong with it, but it just hasn't been used in a couple of years. You know, it's ready to go.
Yeah.
You have to take all your pictures with this lens today. Or every picture today is going to be in black and white, no matter how good the color is. Like that. So you have it in your toolbox, even if you never use it again.
It's good. Very good. Now, in your line of work, do you have a lot of tools in your toolbox?
That's an interesting question, because the answer to that depends on what equipment you have. One of the controversies in my industry is people who try to say there's nothing new under the sun, and people like myself who've used lots of the more up-to-date equipment who say, au contraire, there's a whole world out there, because the more recent machines have computerized programs and different blendings of currents. So they'll say that these are all just bells and whistles to justify charging you tens of thousands of dollars for something that you could put together with a CB radio and a potatoes soaked in Gatorade.
Wow.
Shouldn't we
You
say...
should acknowledge Mick.
Oh, hey, Mick, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you. Shouldn't we say what he does, though? Because it sounds
Yes,
cryptic.
he does hair removal, and he uses the electrolysis method, and there's this laser method, and the laser people don't get along with the electrolysis people. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So me as Joe consumer, I thought laser is not permanent. No matter if you have it lasered, it's going to come
not.
back. The only permanent is electrolysis.
Correct. Although, depending on who you are, you can get some permanent reduction with laser. The problem is you don't know going in what that reduction is going to be. Are you going to go in there with 10 hairs, 10 microns thick, and then come out with 10 hairs, 4 microns thick? Or are you going to go in there with 10 hairs, 10 microns thick, and come out with 6 hairs, 10 microns thick? Or are you going to end up with stimulated growth where you have 20 hairs where you started out with 10, and or are you going to get burned?
Like literally?
Literally.
Okay.
There was a woman who got a $10 million settlement because she went in to have a laser treatment on her lunch break and came out with scars on both cheeks that looked like she got scratched by a tiger.
Are you talking butt cheeks or face cheeks?
Face.
Oh, wow. Bummer.
That's why it was $10 million.
Yeah. That buys a lot of Merkins, I was thinking.
Have you ever thought of hair removal? You'll never have to shave again.
I don't have, I barely have enough to shave now. I can't grow a beard. Like, my dad was 35 before he could grow a beard. And if you told me a year from now, if you don't have a full beard, I'm going to shoot you, I'd say shoot me now because it ain't going to happen. I can't get anything here. So I would, when I lived in Hawaii, there was a guy who said, "You're a Yid, I can tell." I said, "Not for at least 1,000 years." He thought I was Jewish. And I couldn't grow a beard like the good rabbi. I couldn't do it, you know. So, yeah, that doesn't bother me. I remember a guy when I was 19 in college. We were in military school, and I went into James's room. James was a big guy. There's a different guy named James. I said, "You got more hair on your back than I have on my body." And he says, "You can leave any time now." Leave his room. So
You didn't appreciate that comment.
no, but it was true. Like the guys who have to choose an arbitrary spot to stop shaving because that's just, because they continue, like from their chin onto their chest to keep going. They just say, "Okay, here." So.
Statistically, 9 out of 10 people have hair somewhere that they wish they could get rid of.
Oh.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, that was an early one on Law and Order SVU. It was based. The story was based on Michael Jackson, but the guy had no hair on his pubes because he said I had it all lasered off. But here's
Is that something that Michael Jackson did?
I am unaware of him having done that.
I see.
that. What laser? Do you know what laser they use? What is the laser specifically? Not the brand name, but what kind of laser?
Alexandrite.
That's the name of a laser?
Well, that's the crystal that's used, but I've never heard of a compound crystal, because like I'm thinking of the holmium laser that they use in urology. That's what they use on stones.
Okay.
That's what I mean. But that's a different laser than the laser pointer.
Oh. So you're teaching me something here. There's a variety of lasers.
Yeah, they're not all the same. They're like cuts of meat, There's all sorts of different ones. If you just said I had beef, that could be anything from hocks to tenderloin, and they're very different. People say they're very different things that are very similar. No, that they are very different.
Mm-hmm. Have you had any good cuts of meat lately?
I had it was a sirloin roast. It was a culotte steak, but I did it like I was supposed to, and it turns out it looks. I didn't ruin it. It was still edible, but it wasn't the delectable thing that I wanted. But oh well, because it was like a poor man's tenderloin. Just like the tri-tip is the poor man's tenderloin. The tri-tip isn't big around here because that's a West Coast thing. But you could still get tri-tip at Federal Meats. Federal Meats, one of our sponsors. But that they're easy to do on the grill. So that was a good one. Otherwise, every porterhouse I have is butcher cut. You know what I mean? It's not anything unless I see a good one at the Ilmart or at Tops. I'm over the spirit overtakes me and I have to buy it. I can't leave it there. But what I learned about Walmart meat is you have to grill it immediately because if you let it for a day, it's going to turn. And I can't buy Walmart vegetables or fruits anymore after I bought a bag of potatoes and it had a bad one in there. And when I brought it back, they expected it, that I said, "There's a bad potato." She said, "Okay." And she took it and threw it and back and literally threw it. Okay. So, yeah, I haven't potatoed it again from there. Kartoffeln, pomme de terre. I think that, I don't know where Kartoffel comes from in German, but pomme de terre, apple of the earth. That's very, very, very poetic.
That's a poetic way of talking about a potato?
Yeah, that's French. An earth apple. Like chicken of the sea, tuna of the dirt. A chicken is tuna of the dirt, like chicken of the sea is tuna. That was used on MTV 25 years ago.
I see.
I didn't create that. Well, I gotta ascribe it, that I can't.
James, were you a big fan of MTV?
I was actually.
Hasn't it gone through phases?
Yeah.
Like 80s MTV is different from 90s, from 2000s.
Well, VH1 changed its name to MTV Classic. There's no VH1 anymore.
I see.
Because Video Hits 1 was like Diet Coke versus MTV was Coke.
Well, wasn't VH1 also a lot of interviews with groups?
No,
you could see Fleetwood Mac interviewed, and they would play the interview.
No, they would do that on MTV, like the Behind the Music.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that was an MTV thing.
That was MTV was Behind the Music, and that's when that became the inexorable change to there was no music left on MTV.
Yeah, which is
how that
weird.
happened
Yeah,
is the fact that
the Real World and
the reason that happened is advertising. You have to be able to tell an advertiser what they're buying at that time of day. And MTV was basically radio on television with music videos. But you couldn't say what kind of music is going to be played Wednesday at 8 o'clock because it was just a random collection of videos. So the first thing that they did was to do Total Request Live, where allegedly they had people calling a number to request songs. And at a particular time of day, they counted down the top 10 allegedly requested songs.
I remember when that
of
show
the
was
day.
on.
And that gave them something to say. This is what you're buying this time of day, which then led to them doing the game shows, which then led to them doing stuff like Teen Mom and yeah. And then finally it was just the thing that they were pushing out the music videos to be able to say, this is the block of what's going to be playing at this time on that day. So they got to be able to sell advertising based on the ratings of these shows, as opposed to, well, we're showing music videos, kids watch this stuff, they get hooked, and 4 hours later, they're still watching.
Well, but even in 1990, they had 120 Minutes, which was alternative. That was on, was it Sunday night at midnight? And the rock block was always there. So it wasn't as granular as that. They would say, you know, it's heavier stuff. Or in the evening, also, they would do heavier stuff, or in the late night.
But again, that's Coffin Corner. They didn't have any way to sell Wednesday at 8 p.m.
Okay. Well, right. Yeah, that. No, I get that.
And wasn't there a criticism of MTV in the 80s? You don't play enough black music?
Oh, there was a.
That's a whole other thing.
There was a whole bunch that they didn't play. You know, that's why Eddie Trunk on that metal show, he was all at the same time. You know, that they were part and parcel. They were passengers in the same car. There's a whole bunch they didn't show. They didn't show any jazz. Didn't show. Well, they did play hip hop early on, but soft.
But not during prime time.
Yeah, soft hip hop. You know that because like in the what was the in Rapture, Basquiat's in the background. He was still alive when Blondie did Rapture, the song video.
So in the video for that Blondie song, you have a famous artist in the background?
Yeah.
Lots of them, actually.
Yeah, it was.
I'm saying lots of famous artists are in that video.
But Basquiat is the only one that anybody would ever know.
Well, there's also Fab Five Freddy and
Well, he was a musician, though. I'm talking painting artists.
So that would mean that celebrities would often be contacted when there was going to be a Blondie video saying, you want a cameo?
Well, Blondie was a New York act, and they were connected. In fact, you know, there's Andy Warhol paintings of Deborah Harry.
Oh.
Yeah, the Blondie formed, I think, in '75. And they were a regular at CBGB with David Johansen and the New York Dolls and the Ramones. And I mean, the Ramones showed how you could become rich playing 2 chords.
For 2 minutes.
You know?
So you don't hold their musicianship in very high esteem?
They did.
They were very good at what they did. I don't know how good they could be, but you run one after the other. You know, if you say you got 2 minutes, make the most of it.
Somebody's walking in the door.
Oh.
A little late, but they're walking in.
So if anybody wants to call, we're at 716-202-8430. We are live on the air. And
Well, James was a big fan of Blondie, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
the biggest song of 1980. What was the biggest song of 1980?
Heart of
80.
Glass.
Call
No.
Me.
Call me.
Yeah. Heart of Glass was like 77.
Yeah, because she had to change that line, and now they finally play it again. Once in love, it was a
And it was
blast.
a guess.
Soon found out it was a pain in the ass.
That was the original?
That was, the
Yes.
last line of that verse was a pain in the ass, and they wouldn't play that on regular TV.
Yeah, they would just
They had to
cut
reshoot
that
the
verse.
video.
No, they would just cut that verse out.
And or they just put the other line in there, just like in the Money for Nothing, they took out the homosexual epithet.
Either white or why don't you go with the white ones? They're up a little higher. There you go.
Plus haute. Oh, casse.
We are talking about the origins of MTV
Yeah, let me plug
and
you in
how
there.
how it evolved over the decades.
And
It went bad.
and now it's MTV Classic. Just like I said to Tina Peel, that 97 Rock was the new rock, and then now they're classic rock, and they never changed their playlist. How's
Well,
your
that was
volume?
the thing when MTV.
How's your volume?
I can hear it, yeah.
Okay, do you need it higher or lower?
Oh, you should be fine.
Groovy. Yeah, was that James?
MTV morphed with the times. Whatever the new stuff was on MTV. And VH1 kept the classic stuff, the neo-classic stuff, because the point was as time moved on and you still wanted to play Video Killed the Radio Star, you weren't going to put that next to LL Cool J's I'm Bad.
I heard you on the wireless back in '52.
Now you said that there was an evolution where they started playing black music. Was there one song that MTV could not ignore and they had to start playing it?
Well,
Well-
they couldn't play Public Enemy because that was just too much. You know that was.
So, but they made a video, didn't they?
I don't know what the video was though.
Michael Jackson was the breakwater for MTV. They didn't want to play Beat It, Billie Jean, and all of that. And Michael Jackson and his record company took a stand, and CBS said, if you don't play Michael Jackson, we're going to revoke your right to our entire catalog, which would mean MTV no longer being able to play Bruce Springsteen, The Police. You get the picture?
Yeah.
Billy Joel. So it was the bitter pill that they had to swallow. However, once they played it, everybody went nuts. They had a show called Friday Night Fights, and they would play two videos, one after the other, and then have everybody call the vote to say which one they liked better. The world champion for the entire summer was Def Leppard until Michael Jackson came along. So the song that they didn't want to play dethroned the undethronable song.
Which one was it? Was that Billie Jean?
It was Billie Jean versus Photograph.
Do you remember those days?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, dude, come on, that was my formative years. But also, they wasn't Prince CBS also, because wasn't it against CBS why he changed his name to Clang? That's how they called him on VH1. They just said Clang.
Well, Prince was on Warner Brothers.
Oh, it was Warner Brothers, why? Because he said they took everything away from him, so they took his name too, and that's why he changed his name to an unpronounceable Clang.
It also means you can't be served for a court case. That was the biggest reason. You could not legally service him because the court's typewriters could not type the symbol.
Fascinating. I didn't know about any of this.
Well,
Were you a fan of MTV in the day?
Oh, I grew up on MTV.
absolutely.
I remember when it started.
I mean,
Do you remember when Michael Jackson leapt onto the scene in MTV?
Yeah.
that was in '84.
Wow, you even know the year.
Well, yeah. I mean, that was getting ready for school. You'd flip MTV on for a minute and see what it
And
was.
miss your bus.
Yeah.
No.
I missed your bus.
I never missed the bus because I could cross South Park.
Oh, okay.
I missed the bus.
How could MTV make you miss a bus?
because you're
'Cause you
watching
didn't left-
videos.
Oh, you're at home. You're not at the school.
Yeah.
No.
Right.
No, there's a gap between here and there.
We
and
didn't
that-
have internet then. I wasn't watching any of that. You had to watch it at home quickly and hope your mother didn't catch you.
Yeah. I
Did you
mean,
have a favorite video DJ?
I liked Alan Hunter, but also what's her name?
Martha Quinn,
No, not MCQ. J.J. Jackson was all right. Mark Goodman was too.
Nina Blackwood.
Oh, Nina Blackwood. Nina Blackwood only worked nights, and she was great.
I just wanted them to go away so I could watch the videos.
Well, Al Hunter was good. Mark Goodman was like they just made him on Madison Avenue in an advertising place, and MCQ was she was America's sweetheart. You know that nobody had anything on her, but her mother, Jane Bryan Quinn, was famous in her own right for being a financial person.
James, did you have a favorite video DJ?
Definitely Martha Quinn.
I do remember I also liked her.
A rare admission from Richard. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
And but that's where I first saw OMD, who I love to this day. And
Yep.
Martha played "So in Love," and it starts out with something sounds like somebody actually hitting like a xylophone, or what's the other thing that a marimba? So hitting a marimba, and then it goes into electronic, you know. But she played that video, and I'd never seen it before. Then the girl who's in that was in '85, and the girl whose locker was next to mine, she was an OMD fan. That's when I found him out, and I liked him because Reflex opened for OMD in Buffalo.
Were you
No,
there?
not.
Duran
the-
Duran. That's Duran Duran.
Right, that was Politics of Dancing.
Oh, yeah.
The Politics of
That's not
Dancing.
Reflex.
RE-LFLEX. The Politics of Dancing.
No.
Yes.
No, it's Men
look
Without
it up.
Hats.
Google it.
No.
No, that's not Men Without Hats.
No, it isn't.
Yeah, Men Without Hats
No.
are the
We can
Politics
dance
of
if you
Dancing.
want to.
Yeah.
You can leave your friends behind.
Not that one.
Oh, okay. You're talking about a different song. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Reflex came out on stage.
Yeah, the Politics of Dancing. Yeah.
The Politics of Ooh, Feeling Good. The Politics
But
of
usually the
Groovin'.
opening band is from the area, isn't it?
No.
Oh, they will sometimes tour with the group,
Yeah,
Sometimes,
that's the
yes.
thing. Yeah.
but don't they also bring in local groups too?
If you have 100 shows
Sometimes.
or 50 shows, they will have somebody gets a bone thrown to them, but they will also bring along their own for 10 shows
Yeah.
or.
Rush opened for Kiss during a tour.
Oh, and they went along for the whole tour? Mm-hmm. Did they ever upstage Kiss and actually draw more fans than Kiss?
Well, they're all there.
They were the opening act. I mean, like Kiss's opening acts is like a who's who. They had Rush open for them. They had Motley Crue open for them.
Reflex.
Yeah, Reflex. So, isn't it common during a concert where the opening act gets booed?
Only if you
Not
can't
Christopher Bergen
mix. Yeah, if like for instance, having Prince open for the Rolling Stones was just stupid.
Did he get booed?
He not only got booed, people threw stuff at the stage. Get that nigger off the stage.
So, in other words, you want something that closely aligns with the main act's genre?
Yes, at least something that's not clashing.
I see.
But sometimes it's something that's different, and the people say, "Wow, it strikes the same chord in me. I like it, and I don't know why." So, because it's easy as a musician, as you know, you can get bored with what you're doing, so you got to do something new. It was like Johnny Cash covering Nine Inch Nails. Trent Reznor is one of the saddest, meanest people in his music you'd ever hear. I don't know about him in person, but his whole life is his 90s were crap, and that's why, Hurt was hard enough to listen to when Nin did it, but Johnny Cash doing Hurt, I mean that's a piece of artwork.
It's kind of an improvement.
Well, it's a
Wouldn't you
different
say?
it's a different thing,
It's a different thing.
It's a different thing. He did his own thing with their music, and it worked,
There's a show on YouTube called Watch Mojo.
Okay.
and they're always making lists on their, whatever they put out, it's a list. So one of their lists is 10 bands that performed a cover that got more famous than the original.
Well, like
You could probably think of some of them.
Simon and Garfunkel, 59th Street bridge song.
Is that the cover or is that the original?
That's the cover because what was the name? It had the guy with the straight blonde hair like Warhol, but the Feeling Groovy song. That was the one that they made more famous. Well, would you say that Taco's version, because Taco Curse is Indonesian and Dutch, of Putting on the Ritz? Mm-hmm. You know, because that was a big song of its own time, but in the 30s, you know? Mm-hmm. That, but yeah, the Feeling Groovy. Feeling Groovy.
Do you know the song "The House of the Rising Sun"?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That was written by a folk musician named Dave Van Ronk. Mm-hmm. And someone interviewed him in later life and said, "What was the worst experience of your life?" And he said, "Funny you should mention that, because the worst experience coincides with the story about the best experience." And they said, "What was the worst experience?" He said, "When a friend of mine said, 'You got to come with me to see this new guy named Bob Dylan.'" So they went there, and Bob Dylan, he covered Dave Van Ronk's song, and the audience went wild. Okay? And he said, that was the worst moment of my life, because why didn't I get that same adulation that Bob Dylan did? And they said, well, what was the best? He said, the best was when I went to another Bob Dylan concert later on, because I just wanted to see who was going to do it again. And this was years later. Mm-hmm. The audience was shouting out to Bob Dylan, "Play that Animal song! Play that Animal song!" Sort of like what goes around comes around.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to think of others that, because those lists go over on the internet all the time. Songs you're surprised to find out it was a cover.
Nothing compares to you, Bay.
Oh yeah, because Prince did that. You can hear Prince all throughout that. You know.
Did he participate in the cover?
He wrote the song.
He wrote the song.
Oh, but he didn't actually perform it.
No,
He performed it on one of his albums.
Yeah.
In fact, if you want a hit song, find a Prince song that he sings in falsetto and just redo it. Because that's the story with Nothing Compares to You. That's the story with Kiss. That's the story with When You Were Mine. Just find a Prince song that he sings falsetto, and nobody likes it because of that, and then just do it straight.
Sound of Silence, too.
Oh, really?
Simon and Garfunkel did it.
Yeah.
Disturbed did it.
Oh.
Did they improve on it?
Oh, yeah. And there's several versions of it out there.
Oh.
They've done some remixes. It's really good. It's the one you sometimes hear with the videos they have of the training the dogs for the military.
Yeah.
Yeah, they used that song in there, and I went back and listened to the version that they actually Disturbed did to emulate that, and it's powerful. It's really powerful.
But David Draymond's beginning of Down with the Sickness, that many heavy stations or alternative stations use that beginning, where he goes, "Wah!" I can't do it. I can't do it, because David Draymond did it incredibly.
Yeah.
Now, didn't a band do a cover using Walk This Way that became more...
Oh, that was, Aerosmith.
Yeah, Aerosmith.
Aerosmith.
And
Now,
Run DMC.
and didn't the Run DMC version, like, elevate that song?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then they did it together.
Which
It
is...
was a video in MTV.
Right.
But see, they played on the fact that their respective fans would not typically get along together at a concert.
Interesting.
So what they did with the music video is they put up a situation where they were in recording studios that happened to share a wall. And so they're both upset with each other because they don't necessarily like the other's music.
I see.
And Stephen Perry punches a hole through the wall and starts singing at them. So they sing back at him, and they, knock down the wall, and now they're doing a thing together.
Yeah, it's more of the hip hop using it as a cue.
What do you mean a cue?
That they use the other music, and then they go off on that, and so that's
like a launching pad, kind of.
yeah. That but I was wrong. I always had that in my mind that Harper's Bazaar did it first, but no, that 59, the Feeling Groovy song was written by Simon and Garfunkel, written by Paul Simon, and then 1 year later, Harper's Bazaar, Harper's Bizarre, was a group from New York that I think they were from New York, but they covered it. I was wrong. I had it backwards.
Remember when there was a big uproar about musicians sampling other songs?
Yeah.
Has that gone away?
No,
They still resent people who do sampling?
it depends on how good of a job you do with it.
And if you ask for permission.
Oh, you mean things are put out without permission?
All the time.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, since he's the man of the month, Mr. Sean Combs
Yeah.
did a song called I'll Be Missing You, which
John Waite.
is totally stolen from the Police, Every Breath You Take.
Wow.
And he never bothered to ask Sting for permission. So when it hit and went to number one, Sting took him to court, and the settlement, juicy, wonderful, is that Combs can keep the song as it is, but he has to pay Sting $2,000 a day.
And because what was it? Who was Heavy D? What? No, it wasn't Heavy D. Who was the other guy that got killed? That Faith. Was it Faith Hill that sang the song "I'll Be Missing You"? That her
Right.
version is that? Yeah, that's when she sang on that.
Biggie Smalls.
Biggie Smalls. Yeah, that because that absolutely used. Well, that's part of the deal with music. That a chord progression, you can't copyright that. But when you take if you take more than that,
And he took the whole damn song.
yeah. But it's like if you want to hear something funny, hear Gilligan's Island theme in 3/4 time, just like House of the Rising Sun in 3/4 time, in waltz time, because they all fit it. They all fit it. All the songs in 3/4 time.
Yeah.
And it gives you something. Just like Hayseed Dixie, which takes hard rock songs and does them country style.
Was Biggie Smalls talented?
I can't name one thing he did.
He was talented for what he did. It's one of those things where if you don't like that genre, you're probably not going to appreciate it. But some things like that, the only way to appreciate them is when somebody redoes it in a different fashion.
Huh.
I mean, do you will never guess. You might, but you will never guess what was the first song I ever downloaded. But I'll tell you, it was the Thong Song by Cisco.
You're so young. I had 45s and albums, buddy.
Well, I mean,
Do you still have your record collection? No.
No, nope. I gave those up a long time ago, and then I discovered all the new electronic stuff around. I have to carry all of those every time I move. I'm good.
well, what I've always said is, if you get a vinyl album, the first thing you should do is record it digitally.
Yeah, but what about the people who say vinyl is purer?
But that's just it. That the first time you play it, the next time will not sound the same because it's a
Right.
consumable medium.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My roommate buys and sells records.
Yeah.
And he's got a huge collection, and it's up online, and he tells me all about these records all the time. I'm always bringing stuff to him. Hey, look, somebody said they didn't want these anymore. And he'll play them and just absolutely love every single one. He's got thousands of them all over his office. But he'll stand by the vinyl.
So he's an audiophile.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wasn't it Carole King that did Tapestry?
Yeah.
A guy on VH1 in 1990 said when he got that album, he played it so much he wore the record out. That's
And you could do that.
yeah. That's
That is possible.
That is
Yeah.
definitely possible.
because you wear it. It's like there was
It's a needle inside plastic.
and
It was friction.
And there was a guy that was on one of the quiz shows in the 50s or 60s who could, he could look at the record and he could tell you what the music was. You know, in the light, he could, but that's what it was. He could only do classical, but he could tell you what it was by looking at the grooves.
There was a guy who was an
pretty
audiophile
cool.
who had a show here. I never met an audiophile before. Have either of you met? Well, you've met one, but they are really fanatical. Like
Yeah.
About
they
being
keep
fanatics.
A pad by their turntable, and every time they play it, they mark down. And I said, "What's the purpose of that?" He said, "I said you don't want to play the record too much." He said, "I don't want to wear the cartridge out." He said, "A cartridge only sounds good for 5,000 plays. After that, you buy a new one," which I thought was a little extreme. But he told me a story of, he said, you know, you learn about records, and you learn when you take it out of the sleeve and you hold it up to the light and you look at the last ring, they have etched into the vinyl a code. He said to me, audiophiles know the code. So they can look at it and say, oh, look, you know, 23rd pressing. Oh, it was made here. Okay. So he was in a used record store, which is obviously where they go.
Yeah.
And he saw, oh, look, Neil Young's Harvest. And he took it out and he looked and he said, wow, it was the 12th print of the first pressing. And he thought, they have no idea how valuable this is. So he
Right.
slid it back in and he put it in. And then he looked at a few more things and a few more. Then he took it up to the counter and he said, well, like most of your stuff here, he said, you know, you don't have prices on anything. He said, can you tell me what this costs? And he goes, well, I'm not the owner of the store. He said, I just work here. I got to check with the owner. So he shouts in the back and he says, hey, how much for Neil Young's Harvest? And the owner shouts back. He said, look, I'm eating lunch now. He said, I'm sure you could figure it out. And the guy didn't have a clue. So he said to him, he said, how does $20 sound? So my friend didn't act surprised.
Yeah, he's trying to hold it
Yeah,
in.
Trying to
exactly.
hold it in.
Exactly.
So he says, I think I can afford that. And then he took it out and he paid it. But then he said, when he walked out of the store, he had this pressure on him. Any minute now, the owner's going to come out shouting at me, bring that back, bring that back. So he's wondering, do I run? Or do I act like it's nothing, no big deal? You know what I mean?
Nothing, no big deal. Keep on walking if they're too dumb to sell it for the correct price and actually look it up. They
Well-
get what they deserve.
What I learned from the guy who stabbed to death his buddy in South Carolina, don't make up a story. When you do something, get the hell out of Dodge.
Yeah.
You don't want to be there. I take up too much time, but I tell you about when I thought I killed all the power in South Greenville, but I didn't. That's the moral of the story. But you get out of Dodge. You get the hell out of there, because if you're there, your story's going to have holes in it. So I would vouch for at least get around the corner. Once you get around the corner, you can walk everywhere, but as fast as you can, get around the corner so they can't see you.
So you're saying that there's no such thing as an airtight alibi. There's always holes in it that you might not realize,
Oh,
which
well-
is what Columbo would teach us,
No,
right?
that the airtight alibi is the one that's true. If you're telling a lie,
Oh, no. Lies are much superior to the truth because lies are designed to be believable. The truth just is.
well, but that's what I'm saying. That
Interesting.
your best alibi is I was in the theater with 10 people, or I was on this show that's being recorded and cast all over the internet. You know, and notwithstanding the $100 I give each of y'all to say that I was here, I didn't do that. I don't have $100. Where's the camera? But like that's the thing, that you say it in front of people. Like I was giving a speech to my temperance society. That's the best alibi.
Oh, I have a better one than that, from a criminal in England who did this alibi for years. When he was contacted, we want you to kill someone or rob someone, he wouldn't do it, but he would, one of his contacts, he would say, this is when I want you to do it, and you got to tell me when you're going to do it. When the person was doing the crime, he went to the police station and he would say, "Is Detective so-and-so here?" and they would say, "No, it's his day off." And he would say, "Well, I heard he's coming in." They said, "We don't know anything about it." He said, "Do you mind if I just wait here to see if he does come in? Because I heard he is." And he would wait there for like 2 hours. And that was a perfect alibi because the person at the desk would say he was waiting here. So,
Well, that was like, there's a British show that I'm waiting to see season 6. It was Line of Duty. But they talked about Balaclava Man. Well, then they find out in the 5th season, there are many Balaclava Men. That's why, and that starts to unravel it. But the final closing season, I can't get. They haven't had it on AMC, and Acorn didn't have it either. BritBox did, but I didn't pay for that.
I see.
But that's the thing. You're unraveling it, that the one guy was actually many. His name is Legion. Don't you get that?
Yeah, it's a movie reference, isn't it?
No,
It's a
it's
Bible
the
reference.
Bible
The
reference
Bible reference.
about the
Oh,
demon.
the movie got it from the Bible?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my name is Legion, for we are many. His name isn't literally Legion, but my name is Legion, for we are many.
Yeah.
Okay. So the thing I wanted to mention from my list is there is a huge variety of YouTube shows. Huge.
Yeah.
But I have found one that is unlike anything I've ever seen before. And tell me if you like the concept. This guy has a problem with depression. So what he does is his whole YouTube show is looking at the camera and discussing his depression. And he has a lot of followers because the things that he says, the audience says, I have had those very same thoughts, and you are showing me that I'm not alone. So here's one of his videos where he's saying the end of the world cannot come fast enough. Because you can't talk about suicide, otherwise they'll censor you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But you can talk about the end of the world. So
Bring on the meteor!
you can see the depression in his whole demeanor. Okay?
I don't know about you, but sometimes I find myself rooting for the asteroid. Not in a malicious, burn it all down way. More like an exhausted sigh from the soul. Like a cosmic version of pulling the fire alarm at work. And not because you want anybody hurt, but because then we can all go outside and sit in the grass for 20 peaceful, sane minutes and not talk about quarterly earnings or meal prep. There's
Well,
You think he's onto something?
he sounds like an ASMR video.
What's that stand for?
The vocal, the way he's intonating. And
People who will eat and record their eating is ASMR.
Right,
Or
right.
whisper very lowly or make a noise.
Yeah.
or they have a sonorous voice or a
Yes.
dissonorous voice, and they really, really emphasize it. So you can feel the vibrations along with hearing
Yeah.
it. That's what he sounds like. But I live it, and that guy is not depressed. I mean, he lives in a house that's too nice unless somebody is coddling him, that his depression is pseudo-depression because the hole you're in, he wouldn't have the energy to do that. His speech was not stunted. When I was at my worst, I could barely put 2 words together. And you could hear it in my voice. But I'm still not the best. I still need more. But this is a big deal for me to get out of the house. You know,
He's not in your league.
I think what he was trying to say is every once in a while you just need to stop. Just everybody just needs to stop. COVID did that to everybody. Some people lost their minds. I thrived. I did gardening. I had a great time.
did you make a lot of bread?
No, actually, I did not get around to making bread. Pretzels. I made pretzels. I did a lot of cooking. I painted my house. I did a lot of. My vegetable garden was wonderful. It actually, my tomato plant went all the way above my back awning, and like I did a lot. Lost 30 pounds.
Did
That was the
the
best thing that ever happened to me.
did the tomato plant yield fruit?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because that's one of the problems that we've had is the plants are crazy, but they're not growing a lot of fruit.
Tomatoes?
Yeah.
I'll tell you why.
Why?
Do you prune the bottom?
Yeah, we prune like aggressively.
Just about that far up?
Oh, I don't recall the specifics.
Yeah, you got to be about that far up, and you have to prune it all the way up, because then what happens is it causes the flowers to come out.
Right, all the energy goes to that instead of
Right,
that.
exactly. So you got to have a lot of sun too.
So,
James, what's your thoughts about solitude? Do you prefer to being with people?
Depends on the time. There's a time for each.
Very biblical.
we got a minute and a half left. Anybody wants a last minute call? We're at 716-202-8430. 1 minute left.
We have to do contests to get people to call on the phone.
Got to give something away.
Yeah.
This
can't
wooden
give big-
block. this is optimal for your phone. It's a handmade phone rest, and it has a charging slot, so your cord can go into it. It's magical. It's magical.
It's beautiful.
Do you think the era of the telethon is over now that Jerry Lewis is no longer with
God, I
us?
hope
Well, different ways to get people, like the online, like GoFundMe.
Do you think that's the death knell of the telethon, the GoFundMe phenomenon?
Well, they're different pages in the same book. Because before the telethon, before people had telephones, before what would they do? Would they walk outside with a can or go door to door with a can?
Let's do a show.
That was the thing. That was a big thing in the 30s. People that hockey players did that played for the Rangers. One guy, what happened to him? Did he die from a blood clot? But they had a charity game for him. And so all the receipts they gave to the family. So it was before 35 because, but that was the thing that.
Gotta say goodbye. Go ahead, Jason.
Oh, well, hell, there we go.
Say it. Goodbye.
Goodbye.